evening and welcome to Registration 101. Tonight we're going to have a great deal of information for you this evening to get you ready to register for your courses. Let me be the first one to welcome you to Case Western Reserve University. We're really happy that we're going to have you joining our first year class this fall semester, and we're ready to go and get you set to enroll. We're going to also answer your questions live tonight during this presentation. So if you have any questions, please email them to summerreghelp@case.edu. My name is Nancy DiUlio, and I'm the Senior Associate Dean of Undergraduate Studies. Our hosts for this evening are Associate Dean Michael Mason and Residential College Director Aaron Baker, and they are ready to give you all the stuff you need to get ready to go. So now to our host.
Well, thank you, Dean DiUlio, and welcome to all of you out there joining us this evening or this afternoon, wherever you may be. We hope you're having a great summer so far, and we look forward to kicking off this series of summer information sessions tonight as we start diving into registration topics. So as Dean DiUlio mentioned, if you have questions that are on your mind, you can go ahead and start sending them to us now. summerreghelp@case.edu is your email address. Otherwise, as we go through the content this evening, then we can take your questions along the way. And once we get through our opening slides here, we'll have a chance to get into the question and answer session of our portion of the session this evening. So as Dean DiUlio mentioned, my name is Michael Mason. I'm the Associate Dean for First Year Students in the Office of Undergraduate Studies. And here with me is my colleague.
Hi, I'm Aaron. I'm the director of Cedar Residential College.
And together, Aaron and I make up part of the first year team in the Office of Undergraduate Studies. So just so you know a little bit about our office, the Undergraduate Studies Office is the Undergraduate Academic Affairs Office. We serve all undergraduates. Aaron and I work with first year students specifically, but we have other deans in our office who work with upper class students. We have residential college directors for Juniper, Magnolia, and Mistletoe residential colleges. So depending on which residential college you end up living in, you will have a residential college director who not only works with the Office of Residence Life, but also the Undergraduate Studies Office. We also have pre-professional advisors for students interested in going into professional school for health, any of the health sciences, pre-med, pre-dent, pre-vet, as well as pre-law. So we have lots of staff in our Office of Undergraduate Studies who are ready and able to assist you with any matters related to your academic experience. And our mission really is to help you have the best academic experience you can as an undergraduate. We work collaboratively with our faculty partners to help deliver the academic advising that happens at the university. So Aaron and I work, as well as the other residential college directors, work with our partners in the SAGES program, who instruct the SAGES for seminars, who advise students, but also any of the faculty who advise first year students. We work with them to help deliver the academic advising that happens here at the university. So again, we're happy to have you with us this evening. And Aaron's going to give you a quick overview of what we're going to talk about tonight.
Okay, before we dive into the topics at hand tonight, we want you to see the topics we'll cover, so that way you kind of know ahead of time if you have other questions that you want to get into us through our email. We'll be covering important dates and deadlines. What is a degree? What is a major? And what does that really mean for you? What is the SAGES seminar program, and how does it fit into the general education requirements here at Case Western Reserve University? How to best utilize the first year registration guide, and of course, how to register for courses. Afterwards, we'll answer all the questions that you may have. And if we run out of time, we'll be able to follow up with you at a later date. So in terms of registering for classes, you will register for fall classes using our student information system, what we call SIS, as well as through the new student checklist. Your fall schedule should consist of 14 to 17 credit hours, which may be about 4 to 5 courses, depending on how many credit hours each course is. One of these courses that you will sign up for is your SAGES first seminar. That is going to be 4 credit hours. Now, you may see in your SIS homepage that you've already have a placeholder for your first seminar course. Later on, after you've selected your preferences, that will be replaced with your finalized first seminar course. The remainder of the courses that you choose will be a variety of courses related to your general education requirements, your major requirements, things that you're interested in studying and exploring more, and academic interests that you may have that you want to continue on from your high school experience. Now, what is a credit hour? 1 credit hour is roughly equal to 1 hour of contact time and 2 to 3 hours of outside study time per week. So for example, if you were taking a 3 credit hour course, you may have 3 contact hours, 3 class time hours, or 6 to 9 hours outside of the class that you would need to focus on for that one course. So imagine, multiplying those numbers by 4 or 5, depending on the number of courses that you enroll in. Now, the minimum number of credit hours that you can enroll in is 12, and the maximum is 19. But remember, 14 to 17 is our recommendation for you to really aim for during the registration period. Now, after registration closes, we will review your schedule and contact you if there are any issues. So we'll look at things like your intended major, your preparation, and then follow back up with you if we see any concerns and ask you about the decisions that you made and what went into those decisions. You'll be able to follow back with us on the progress through the new student checklist. After we review your schedule and approve it, we will then place you into one of your first seminar choices. That will take place in early to mid-August. Now, if you're an international student, you will be placed into a first seminar after you complete the writing diagnostic once you arrive to campus. Of course, some things change, your interests may change, and you will have the opportunity to make further changes to your schedule in light of those changes, beginning Wednesday of orientation after you meet with your academic advisor. Next, Michael's going to talk a little bit about some important deadlines on the new student checklist.
Right. So hopefully you're all somewhat familiar with the new student checklist at this point. You've been working through the various items that are available to you right now. We want to take a moment just to highlight some of the items that are specific to the academic side of things so that you're aware of the different deadlines and the things that you need to complete, which will help prepare you for the registration process that opens up in just about a month. So the first of those is the things that are already in progress or have due dates that have already passed, which are the APIB scores and the evaluation of college credit items. So with APIB scores, I know sometimes students will ask, how am I supposed to report my scores if I don't know what they are yet? And it's just important to remember that that item was really just asking you to indicate to us whether or not we should expect to receive scores for you, and just also for you to acknowledge to us that you've done your part to make sure that the scores will be sent to us once they become available. Typically, we receive the scores from both the College Board and the International Baccalaureate right around July 1st. So once we get those scores from those organizations, we will upload those scores into SIS, and the credits will be automatically posted. So really you just need to make sure that you've done your part to arrange to have those scores sent to us when they become available. For the evaluation of college credit, if you have college courses that you took while you're in high school and you want to have those looked at to see if they're eligible for transfer credit here at Case Western Reserve, there's an item on the checklist that you should have completed already. But if you haven't completed it, don't worry, you can still do it. We just need to get those in as quickly as possible so that we have time to review them and get any credit that you will be receiving posted before you register for classes. That way you know what you're working with as far as credits go. The next item that's coming up due soon, a week from this coming Friday from tomorrow, is the math diagnostic. And that's something that every student needs to take regardless of what your intended major is. Even if you're intending to major in something that doesn't have a math requirement or a calculus requirement, we still need all students to take that diagnostic. Even students who expect to earn credit from AP scores or from courses they took while they were college courses they took while they're in high school. Everyone should be taking that. So if you haven't had a chance to do that yet, hopefully you find a time to do it between now and the 23rd. It's a 60-minute timed test. And the results of that test will tell you whether if you're planning on pursuing a major that has a calculus requirement, whether you should start in pre-calculus, which is Math 120, or whether you're qualified to go into calculus, which there are 2 different versions of, Math 121 or 125. You can read more about those options in the first year registration guide. But again, bottom line is just, make sure you get the diagnostic done as soon as you can. Other things that are coming up on the horizon, July 1st, there's several items that'll be due. There's the SAGES directed self-placement item that you'll need to complete. That's where you will submit a writing sample, and then you'll go through a series of questions in a diagnostic process to where eventually you'll indicate to us whether you plan on taking a topical first seminar or a first seminar that has more focus on the writing process, a Foundations of Writing first seminar. And so that item will tell you more about that process, so you should definitely take a look at that if you haven't done it already. As Aaron mentioned, international students, you will do your writing diagnostic once you arrive on campus in August for orientation, so you won't actually have to worry about that item at this moment. You'll take care of that at a later point in time. There's foreign language placement testing that's due on July 1st, so if you're planning on taking a foreign language in the fall, you want to complete that. We have those tests available for French, German, Spanish, Russian, and Chinese. Other languages that you might be interested in taking, there is a placement rubric in the first year registration guide. There's not a placement test for that, but that's not a problem. And the other thing is the Information for Advisors survey. So that's the survey that we use to gather information about you, the things that you're interested in studying, things that you're interested in outside of your studies, career plans, just kind of general perceptions and thoughts and plans that you have for your college experience. And I think the most informative part of that survey, at least for us, is there's an opportunity for you to write a letter to the person who will be your first year advisor and tell them more about who you are, just as a person, not just as a student, but just tell them more about you, what you're interested in, what your hopes and dreams are, what questions you have, concerns you have. Give them an opportunity to get to know you prior to meeting when you guys meet during orientation in August. As Aaron already mentioned, July 11th through 14th is when you'll register for your courses. And also, as Aaron mentioned, the first step in that process will be to register for all of your courses except for your SAGES first seminar using SIS. And then after you've registered for your courses, you will navigate over to the new student checklist where you will then indicate your top 4 first seminar preferences. So the first seminar process, the placement process for that, it's not a first come, first serve sort of thing. We have you indicate 4 choices to us, and we'll place you into one of those 4 choices. Aaron will get into more of the details of what that process looks like here later in the presentation. But just the thing to keep in mind is that the list of seminars that you'll see available to you is based on the schedule you've created in SIS. So if you make any changes to your schedule in SIS after you've indicated your seminar preferences, you need to navigate back to the checklist and further revise your seminar choices so that there aren't any time conflicts. We review every student's schedule after they've registered. So once we close out registration, our office will go through the process of reviewing everyone's schedule. And then also, as Aaron mentioned, in August, early to mid-August, you'll actually be placed into your first seminar. I'm going to turn it over to Aaron here in just a second, but we want to sort of shift gears into talking a little bit more broadly about what a degree is, what a major is, what general education is, and how those things differ. And that's just to help you sort of conceptualize what you'll be taking and what you'll be registering yourself for in the fall semester. So as far as just overview, degree requirements for undergraduates, the broadest, the most general requirements are there on that left column. So regardless of what your degree is, whether it's a Bachelor of Arts or a Bachelor of Science, you're going to have a minimum number of credit hours you need to earn, a GPA requirement to graduate, a residency requirement, which means you need to take at least 60 credit hours of courses here at Case Western Reserve University. You'll have your SAGES seminars, so everyone will take first seminar in the fall, and then you'll take a series of university seminars, department seminars, senior capstone later in your undergraduate career. And you also have a physical education requirement. So by the time you graduate, you'll need to have completed the equivalent of 2 semesters of physical education. And it's not something you have to get started on in your first semester necessarily. You can if there's an opportunity, but it's definitely no pressure, no need to worry about that if you can't find a phys ed course for your first semester. But that is something you'll need to wrap up by the time you graduate, and there's more information about that in the registration guide. Once we get through those, universal requirements for all undergraduate degrees. Then your major, or I'm sorry, your major, your degree, will have a series of breadth requirements that are the, I guess you could say, other half of general education. If SAGES and phys ed are one half, then breadth is the other half. So the breadth requirements are actually determined by your school. So if you're pursuing a major in the College of Arts and Sciences, you would follow the breadth requirements as prescribed by the College of Arts and Sciences. If you're pursuing a major that's in the School of Engineering, again, you take the breadth requirements as prescribed by the School of Engineering. So those breadth requirements are laid out for you in the first year registration guide as well. Then we get into the major requirements. So depending on the major you select, and you only need one major, I should specify, those majors will have a set of courses that you'll need to complete. And then if applicable, again, this doesn't apply to everybody or every major, but some majors may have open electives, additional coursework. Some people may choose to pursue minors and things of that nature. So that would sort of round out your degree requirements as an undergraduate.
Okay, so specifically talking about general education requirements, Michael indicated there are kind of two parts to it. The first part is the SAGES seminar program and the physical education requirement. All students graduating from Case Western Reserve University will fulfill these requirements. And then the other part is the breadth requirements or school-specific requirements. So each school or the College of Arts and Sciences requires the breadth requirements. And in general, those courses fall into three categories: arts and humanities, social sciences, and the natural and mathematical sciences. The number of credit hours, number of courses, which courses qualify for those areas is determined by each school or the College of Arts and Sciences. All that information is available in the first year registration guide if you want some more specific information regarding those requirements. Now, the College of Arts and Sciences and the School of Engineering have some other requirements for you in terms of the general education. The global and cultural diversity and quantitative reasoning requirements are ones that are specific to the College of Arts and Sciences. And then the School of Engineering has core requirements to help make sure you're prepared for your major engineering courses. Now, next is the SAGES program. So what is SAGES? SAGES stands for the Seminar Approach to General Education and Scholarship. What this program does, it takes you from your first semester all the way to the time that you graduate to really help develop skills that are important for you as a member of the global community, as someone who is going to be communicating with others, someone who's going to be researching and learning more. This program is really going to help you hone those skills. And this program does this by setting up experiences for you to really integrate with peers in a small group setting, really develop critical reading skills and writing skills, presentation skills, as well as discussion. All first-year students will take first seminar in the fall, and that's the first step towards completing the SAGES program. Right now, you'll see that FSCC 850 is on your schedule, and like I said, that's a placeholder. It's there to reserve time for your fourth hour. Now, your actual fourth hour, once you finalized your first seminar placement, will be either on Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, 12:45 to 2 p.m. It won't be on all three of those days. It'll only be on one of those days. The reason why you have to review your SAGES preferences if you make any changes to your schedule is because the courses may have a fourth hour on Monday or on Wednesday, and if you choose a class during that time, then that course would no longer be available for you because of a conflict of your schedule. So Michael will talk a little bit about how you will know what to register for.
Thanks, Aaron. And I think one thing I just wanted to clarify from the previous slide, which we didn't include, was just that what fourth hour is sort of the additional meeting time on top of the regular seminar meeting times that you'll have during the week. So, for example, you might have your seminar meeting regularly on, let's say, Tuesdays and Thursdays for an hour, hour and a half, and then on top of that, you would have your fourth hour meeting time on either that Monday, Wednesday, or Friday from 12:45 to 2. And usually during the fourth hour, it's more than just a seminar meeting. Those are the times where you can actually, go with your seminar group off campus. You might have like field trips, tours, guest speakers, other sorts of activities that are sort of done in conjunction with the in-class learning that's happening during the regular seminar meeting times during the week. So just wanted to clarify that to talk more about just what fourth hour is so you understand. As far as what you'll need to register for, how are you going to know that? How are you going to know which courses to choose? So the way we kind of think of it is obviously you want to start off by just considering what you're interested in. What are your academic interests? What are your goals for your undergraduate experience? And then survey your options. So if you start off in just some of the early pages of the first year registration guide, you'll see some content that just gives you an overview of all the different majors that we offer here at the university. It gives you some tips on just sort of how to think about putting together an academic plan for your first year and beyond. So really just take a moment to consider what it is you're interested in pursuing. And obviously, if you've got a major in mind, you'll probably be focusing in on that a little bit. But even think beyond that and think about, while I'm an undergraduate, are there courses that I'd like to take just out of, pure enjoyment, or things that, I'm interested in investigating a little bit further, whether or not I end up majoring in them, and think about how you might be able to weave those in, if not during your first semester, maybe at some point during your first year. After you've done that sort of reflection piece, then you can get into sort of the logistics. And again, I've already mentioned, completing the relevant diagnostic exercises. So again, making sure you've done your math diagnostic, and especially if you're planning on taking a math course in the fall, so you know where to begin. Same thing with languages, and same thing with SAGES, sort of understanding what courses among those three areas you'll be starting with. The first year registration guide includes recommendations for every major that we offer here. So it's going to give you a set of recommended courses for both the fall and spring semester. So you'll want to take a look at those for any of the majors that you're considering. We've also produced a series of registration help videos. Those are videos that are actually featuring our faculty from the various programs, undergraduate programs, who, they'll give you some advice, some perspective on their programs and what you should be thinking about as far as fall courses go. The schedule of classes, which you can access through SIS, is going to give you, not just a list of, what courses are being offered and when they're being offered, days, times, et cetera. But if you look into the course descriptions, you'll find out a lot more about what the course is actually going to cover, and also if there's any prerequisites that go along with those courses, so you can make sure if there's something you're planning on taking in the fall, that you are indeed qualified to take it back based on your academic background. For those of you who do have AP, IB, or college coursework that you're bringing with you to Case Western Reserve, you want to consider how you're going to use that credit. Some students will use that credit to move into an upper level course in their first semester. Other students, rather than moving up, will just sort of consider that preparation, and they'll repeat a course even if they have credit for it. So it's really an individual decision, and it's based on a number of factors. How strong how strong your background is, and how confident you feel. Whether or not it's something that you took more recently, or maybe a year or two ago, and you feel like you need a refresher. So there's lots of things to consider when you're thinking about whether or not to use that credit to move ahead. And if you ever have questions about that, you want to just kind of talk through your options with somebody, not just about credit, but even just thinking about how to make sense out of the recommended schedules, whether or not there's any, leeway in the schedule recommendations. The major I'm interested in recommends these 3 classes, but I'd really like to find a way to take this class as well. Can that work? Call us, email us. We will talk you through all of those things. We've got people who are standing by, ready to help answer those questions and help you think about the process and make it, something that you're going to be comfortable with. How are you advised? So much has been said, or much will be said, about academic advising and the importance of that in your undergraduate experience here at Case Western Reserve. And so in the summertime, as you're preparing to get ready for your fall semester, because you don't have a academic advisor assigned to you yet, we in the Office of Undergraduate Studies are, in essence, your advisors for the summertime. So we're available to you, myself Aaron, the other residential college directors. We have a staff of summer office assistants, undergraduate students who are able to help you as well. So you can contact us for any kind of summer advising you might need. We have all these great published resources, the registration guide, the FYI newsletter that comes out to you every other week that has a ton of information about not just academic things, but all kinds of information about getting ready for your first semester. And our registration help videos, which I already mentioned. Once you arrive on campus, once we know which SAGE's first seminar you're going to be placed into, then we'll know who your academic advisor is. And you'll actually have an opportunity to meet one-on-one with that advisor during orientation. You'll meet with them as a group on Tuesday of orientation during a lunch with the rest of your SAGE's class, but then you'll schedule a one-on-one meeting with that person during orientation as well. So you'll have an opportunity to sit down with them, get to know them a little bit better, them to get to know you, and also to go over any other kind of last-minute questions or concerns you might have about your schedule. There are additional advisors that are going to be assigned to students who are in nursing and music and students interested in engineering. So your SAGE's instructor / advisor is more of a generalist, but if you fall in any of those programs, you'll have an additional advisor from your particular school who's assigned to you as well. And the other thing is, even though the SAGE's advisors are generalists, which we consider really an asset for your first semester, your first year as you're exploring, we do have what we call academic representatives that are available to meet with students. So once you arrive on campus, every major and minor that we offer has at least one, if not more, academic representatives who are the faculty advisors in those departments who are available to meet with any student who's interested in those programs. So if you want to talk to somebody who has more specific, program-specific information, you'll have an opportunity to do that once you're here on campus.
Okay, so the first year registration guide, we've talked a lot about it tonight, and we really believe that it's one of the best resources that you have as you prepare for registering for your fall semester. We've mentioned it here and there, but this is pretty much a summary of some of the important highlights from the first year registration guide. We have the schedule recommendations, like Michael mentioned, that come from each of the departments. They are reviewed every year and adjusted, and we really work with those departments to make sure that those recommendations are what's best for first-year students in their first and second semesters. That being said, we understand that each student has a unique path and interest, and so we also want you to remember that these are just recommendations, and they're not necessarily what you must take in the fall and the spring semester. Now, some of the departments may have some special advising notes if you are looking to concentrate in certain areas. And if they have those concentrations and you're not sure right now, that's okay. You can figure that out once you matriculate, come to campus, or even in your second year, third year, depending on what the major requires. It'll also talk a little bit more about each general education requirement by school. So if you're looking to do an attended major in a specific school, you'll want to go to those sections for that information. If you've indicated to us that we should be receiving your AP and IB credit information, you can always refer back to the guide on what AP and IB credits are accepted for what courses, what's that process, what scores are required for them to be to qualify for credit. And then we've compiled a list of frequently asked questions that you can look in and see as you're going through the process. And sometimes you know something one moment and then the next moment you forget, and that's okay. That's why we made this guide. It's very comprehensive. It's available online, and so you can use like Control F to find keywords if you forget where something is located. And then, of course, if you can't find it in the guide, you can always email us or call us for further clarification. Now, for the more logistical aspects of registering, there's some handy guides that will walk you through how to use the shopping cart, how to register through the student information system, how to sign up for your for seminar preferences. So, if you are going through those processes and you come to some roadblocks, the guide should be some help for you. Additionally, if you know that you're going to be starting some course sequences that should span multiple semesters here at Case Western Reserve University, and you're curious about what's next, or if you can start in different places in the sequence, there's some information about choosing those courses, whether it's a math course or a chemistry course. There's an in-depth guide to help you walk through those decisions. And then there are many more sections. Just to name a few, what if you're interested in music? What if you're an athlete? What courses count towards the physical education requirement? How can you prepare to study abroad, and what does that look like, and how does that impact your first year? Same thing for research, and plenty other things that we can't list on this slide, but hopefully it's a very good resource for you as you navigate this process.
So again, one of the things that you'll probably spend a lot of time looking at and helping you plan for your fall schedule are going to be some of these recommended schedules. So I just want to walk through a couple different examples of those with you, just so you can see, what they look like and sort of how to make sense of them. So the first example I'm going to show here is the one for aerospace engineering. So as with all the recommended schedules, you're going to see the first course on the list is going to be your SAGES first seminar, because again, everybody will take that in the fall. For an engineering student, it's going to look pretty similar, whether you're aerospace or any other kind of engineer. You're going to have math, which it all depends on sort of where you begin. And again, it's either based on your math diagnostic score, or if you have any AP, IB, or previous college credit. Again, you might start anywhere from Math 120, which is pre-calculus, up through 121, 122, 223, et cetera, Calc 1, 2, or 3, again, depending on where you place. The chemistry of principles chemistry for engineers, Chem 111, and then you would choose between Physics 121 or Engineering 131, either an introductory physics course or an introductory computer programming course. I want to emphasize the or here, not both, because taking both would put you up to 19 credit hours, and again, that's considered a heavy load. We don't want you starting off with that many credits in your first semester. So you would just, sort of look through the guide and see, okay, if I placed into Math 120, here it suggests that I take Engineering 131, or if I am qualified for Calc 1 or beyond, I can start off in Physics 121. And that's how you would sort of read through that. Again, we would actually give you the recommended schedule for both fall and spring. So if you're somebody who, let's say you have AP credit for chemistry, so you've got Chem 111 credit, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, well, I've got that credit already. What do I do then? You could look ahead and see, well, if I were to follow this sequence in the spring, I would be taking Engineering 145, which is chemistry of materials. So if I had Chem 111 credit, I would have a choice then. I could choose either to repeat Chemistry 111 because maybe I'm, not so confident in my chemistry background and I feel I might benefit from repeating the course. Or I could say, well, I've got this credit and I'm ready to move on, so I'm going to take Engineering 145 in the fall instead of Chem 111. I'm going to move ahead. Or I could say to myself, okay, now I've got this Chem 111 credit. I want to use it and I want to go into 145, but rather than jumping ahead in the fall, I'd rather take something else that I'm interested in. Maybe I'm also considering a major or a minor, or I'm just interested in economics or political science or psychology. I could sub in one of those courses in place of Chem 111 and just pick up Engineering 145 in the spring. So again, you look at the fall, you look at the spring, you see what's suggested, and you see, if you have credits, or even if you don't have credits and you're just sort of wondering, is there any wiggle room? Give us a call or send us an email and we'll sort of walk you through what your options are when looking at the suggested schedules. So another example, this is a different kind of schedule you'll see here. This is the sample schedule for a psychology major. So again, first seminar you'll see, and you'll see Introduction to Psychology is recommended, of course, if you're interested in psychology or any other discipline and you haven't taken an introductory course. That's usually what you'll take in the fall semester. And in addition to that, you'll see there's just a lot of choices to be made that really aren't prescribed to you in the same way that courses were prescribed in the engineering major. So this is just sort of contrasting, an engineering major or another major like that that has, more of a prescriptive set of recommendations versus a major like psychology or something else in the social sciences or the humanities, that's a little bit more open-ended and it gives you more choice. So in addition to the intro course, you could choose from any number of courses that would count towards various general education requirements or even just open electives. Again, this would give you a little bit more flexibility to explore different academic things that you're interested in. So again, you could see where the springboard of the intro course, Psych 101 in the fall, would then open up the door for you to sort of expand and take more upper level courses in that major starting in the spring and beyond. So I guess one of the big takeaways when you're thinking about your fall schedule and just sort of these sample schedules in general is just that you're not always necessarily going to be taking, more than one course in your intended major if you have an intended major at this point. And if you don't, believe me, it's okay. Lots of students will come in, just ready to explore. But again, you may have one course in your intended major and then a lot of things to choose from beyond that, just sort of at your discretion. Or if you're in a major that's a little bit more prescriptive, like engineering or nursing or something like that, you might have multiple courses in your major. But, neither one is better than the other. It just kind of depends on what the recommendations are. So I will let Aaron sort of close this out before we head into question and answer time and talk a little bit about the shopping cart and about the SAGES selection.
Okay, so now that you've looked at the recommendations and you know what courses that you want to try to register for on July 11th through the 14th, you'll want to then fill your shopping cart in the student information system with those courses that you're looking for. Now, you'll want to put a few options in case those courses fill up during the registration process. So if you're looking at a chemistry class that has multiple options for a discussion section or a lab, if that's a physics class, a recitation if it's a math class, you'll want to then choose a few options that will fit into your schedule, so that way on the day of registration you have those already preloaded into your shopping cart. So this is a screenshot of what the shopping cart kind of looks like. And for more information on how to navigate it, you can find that in the first year registration guide. But what I really want to point out to you is this validate function. So you want to validate your courses 2 to 3 days before registration to ensure that there aren't any major issues, whether it's prereq or schedule conflicts, and to ensure that when you go to register for those classes, you're eligible to do so. So then once you do that, select your courses, July 11th through the 14th, you'll then be able to navigate back to the new student checklist to select your first seminar preferences, and you'll select 4. Remember that the preferences that are listed available to you are based on the schedule that you've chosen in SIS to see what courses will fit your schedule. So if you update your schedule after you make your preferences choices, you'll have to go back and re-choose your preferences again. So on the next screen, you'll see what that looks like after you register for courses in SIS, navigate to the new student checklist, and navigate to this selection here. You'll see a listing of courses that you can choose from, and there are checkboxes in the left-hand column. In the middle column, you'll see the course number, and then in the right column, you're going to see a description that's really going to give you an understanding of what that course looks like. And so you'll want to choose your selections based off of your academic interests, or things that you want to try to connect the dots for between with your major interests, or something outside those scope and something that you just really want to explore. Now, just to reiterate a point that Michael made earlier, your first seminar selection is not done on a first come, first served basis. So, you can really take your time reading through those options that are listed for you. You can preview the seminars in the schedule of classes now if you'd like. Just remember that it's not going to filter out any that will conflict with your schedule. Now, please do not put a SAGES first seminar in your shopping cart or attempt to register for it in SIS, because it will cause you issues as you go forward with the registration process. Now, each of the first seminars is a small group, and that's intentional because we really want you to have a good experience in the seminar course. And you might think, like, well, I'm trying to register for the course and it's closed and maybe it's full. And there's some options in SAS to request permissions. Please do not do that. Remember, it's not a first come, first served basis. So we will work to place you in one of the 4 preferences that you made. And so if one is closed, or that actually wouldn't actually occur during the fall registration process. But please don't use the request permission for a first seminar through SIS during this time period. Okay.
I think we've said enough
Yeah,
at this point.
I think so.
Now we want to hear from you. So if you haven't already, go ahead and send in your questions to summeredgehelp@case.edu. And Dean DiUlio will read them live on air for us to answer. And we'll just sort of take it from there. So.
All right. Well, I have quite a few questions have come in already. So let's get started. Kieran would like to know, are the math diagnostic results a suggestion, or do I have to register based on what it tells me? For example, Math 120 or versus 121.
Great question. So yes, the suggestion, or I'm sorry, the results of the math diagnostic are not just a suggestion. That does tell you what you are eligible to register for. So if you complete the math diagnostic and the results say that you're to begin in Math 120, then that is the course that you'll need to register for, assuming that you need calculus for your intended major. That's the course you'll need to register for the fall semester. Conversely, if your math diagnostic score places you into either Math 121 or 125, then you have a choice at that point whether to take 121 or 125, depending on what your intended major recommends. And beyond that, whether you place in a Math 120 or Math 121 or 125, if you have any AP, IB, or college credit that places you beyond Calculus 1, that the diagnostic isn't going to necessarily speak to that. It's only going to tell you whether pre-calc or calc. Any placement beyond Calc 1 is going to be based on credit you've earned. For those of you who may be placed into Math 120 and you think to yourself, that doesn't seem right. I've taken calculus before. I've taken pre-calculus. I think I do want to start in Calc 1 in the fall. You will have the opportunity to take a diagnostic exam again during new student orientation. So that's something that you can take care of. And if you end up placing into Calculus 1 based on that retake of the diagnostic during orientation, we can make the adjustment to your schedule before classes begin. We can do that during orientation. But again, for now, if you place into Math 120, then that's the course you'll want to begin in for the fall. And again, it's really not about placing in any particular course. It's just about placing into the course that's best for you. And we believe our diagnostic is very good at getting students placed into the correct course.
Great, thank you. I have a question from Eric. Eric writes, Case hasn't received my AP scores, even though I designated they be sent. What's wrong?
Okay, so the AP scores will come directly from the College Board if you've designated Case Western Reserve University as an institution that will receive your scores. Now, that may not happen until around the beginning of July, but once we do receive those scores, we'll update the new student checklist, and you'll be able to see on there. If you're getting closer to registration and that hasn't been updated, you can always follow up with us to see if the receipt of those scores is being processed, or you may want to follow back up with the College Board to see if those scores were released.
Great, thank you. We have another question. Is it possible to do a Spanish minor and an engineering major?
It's a great question. Yes, it is possible. So if you look at the Spanish minor requirements, which are not in the registration guide, but they are in the general bulletin, you'll find that you need to take 5 Spanish courses. And if you have any credit from AP or transfer credit, that can count towards some of those requirements for the Spanish minor. But also, if you look at the general education requirements for the School of Engineering, you'll see that there's a requirement that you take 12 credit hours in humanities or social sciences. And so Spanish courses would actually count as a humanities course for the School of Engineering. So you could actually use the courses that you're taking toward your Spanish minor to also satisfy part of your general education requirement for the School of Engineering. So, in fact, it is possible, and I'm sure I don't have numbers in front of me, but I know there are students who do it. So, yeah, certainly if that's something you're interested in doing, you should pursue that.
Great, thank you. I have another question from John. Is it possible to double major with one major in engineering and one major from the College of Arts and Sciences?
So in the general bulletin, there is a section that overviews what's a double major, what's a double degree, what's a secondary major. And so that's a really good resource to look at. Now, that's not something that is always, it's not something that we direct you to much here, because a lot of the information that you need for registering of the fall courses is in the first year registration guide. But you can find that by going to bulletin.case.edu. Now, to do a major in the College of Arts and Sciences and a major in the School of Engineering, you would do what is considered a double degree or a secondary major. And so those requirements, what that means, what that looks like, are more in-depthly covered in the general bulletin. And if you have further questions about what that could look like in impacting your fall semester, I highly recommend that you give us a call so that we can walk through what that looks like for you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, great, thank you. I have another question from Jack, once again about a double major. Jack is thinking about two different fields of engineering and wonders what's the best way to schedule classes for this fall semester.
It's a good question. So I think if you're thinking about two different majors within the same school, in this case in engineering as an example, look at the recommended schedule for both of those majors and see, what the similarities and what the differences are, and then really try to discern, whether or not there are really any decisions that you need to make for the fall semester in terms of following this path or that path. Because odds are probably not, especially within engineering, because most of the core requirements are going to be the same across the board. So you're always going to have, in most cases, you're going to have a calculus course, a chemistry course, and either a physics or a computer programming course, and then your first seminar. So if one is saying take physics and the other one is saying take the programming course, and you're just thinking, which one should I do? Because you don't want to do both. And again, we wouldn't recommend you do both. If you look at the notes in the registration guide, it might give you some clues as to whether or not it's really one or the other is something you need to prioritize. But again, if you can't sort that out just by looking at what's said in the guide, as Aaron just said, the best thing to do is either pick up the phone or send us an email. And depending on the two specific programs that you're looking at, we can give you some more kind of individualized guidance on which courses you'll want to prioritize for the fall semester.
Great, thank you. I have a question about the shopping cart, and it's a pretty specific question. Do I need to validate courses in SIS before July 11th?
Yes, we definitely recommend that you validate the courses in SIS before July 11th, because if there are any issues that that may exist in your shopping cart selection, then you'll want to have those kind of troubleshooted and figured out before registration opens on July 11th at 9 a.m. So we definitely encourage that. Probably you want to do it even before the previous business week closes, so that if you have questions about why it might be not validating, you can contact us to help you work through that.
Great. I have another question about the shopping cart from Xiao Wen. Can we start putting classes in our shopping cart now?
Yes. Yeah. The shopping cart's open to you. So definitely feel free to begin loading courses in there tonight if you'd like. But one of the nice things about the shopping cart, like Aaron sort of already mentioned, is that you have the option to put more courses into the shopping cart than you may actually end up registering for when you go to enroll on July 11th or anytime during that registration period. So it'll give you an opportunity just to see, which sections are out there, and you can sort of construct different versions of a schedule. You might have a preferred time for a particular course, and then you have, time 2, time 3, time 4 of the different sections that you're sort of prioritizing. And once you go in to register for your classes, you just check the boxes next to the courses you actually want to enroll in. And if for some reason, let's say, for example, a lab, if you're registering for a course that has a lab and the lab is capped at 32 students, there's a chance that, your first choice lab time, there might be 32 other students who also thought that was a nice time for a lab. And so by the time you register, it's filled up. Instead of having to go back through and search and find another lab that fits your schedule, you just work your way down the list of labs that you've already loaded into your shopping cart, and then you just get yourself into the next lab on that list for you. So, yeah, definitely start preparing now. I mean, anything that you can do at this point to just sort of, read through the guide, put courses in your shopping cart, look at the recommended schedules, validate, that sort of thing. That'll make your registration process so much smoother when July 11th rolls around. I think the one sort of caveat that I'll give with regard to the validation feature is that, let's say you were planning, you're expecting you're going to get credit for Calc 1 and you're confident that you're going to be enrolling in Calc 2 and for the fall semester. Until we actually receive that AP score or we've got that transfer credit, reviewed and posted into your record, you're not going to be able to validate it until that credit's posted. But don't worry, there's plenty of time for that to happen between now and when registration opens up. And again, that's why Aaron was mentioning, you want to validate a couple of days before registration, because by the time we receive AP and IB scores in early July and when registration opens up, that gives us enough time to post everything. If for some reason something didn't come through, didn't get posted, you go to validate and it's not validating, then you have a couple days to correspond with us and figure out, how do we resolve that? And we have ways to do that for you. So again, that's the validation feature is helpful, but if you can't validate something at this point because the credit's not here yet, don't fret. There's plenty of time for that to happen. And again, we usually don't get AP and IB scores until right around July 1st. So at this point, you'll just have to sort of sit tight.
Great, thank you. I have a few more questions here, so I'm going to give you one first. Where do I find the FYR guide again?
There's multiple places, but the easiest way to do it is just to go on the new student checklist and open up the first year registration item, and then there's a direct link to the guide from that item. Or you can also get to it through the undergraduate studies webpage. So case.edu/UG studies. Just go to the first year students section and there's a link to it on there as well.
All right, thank you for the reminder. I have a question from Jordan, and Jordan is asking, is it bad that I'm undecided regarding a major?
It's definitely not bad that you're undecided regarding a major. In fact, it gives you a lot of opportunity to explore different courses and kind of sequences and majors and academic interests that you may have in your first semester and maybe even into your second semester. So a lot of the introductory courses in the different disciplines can count towards your general education requirements. And so even if you take 4 different courses in 4 different departments, they still should most likely fit within your graduation requirements. So you're not losing any time if exploring those different options.
Okay, I have a question that's come in from Stephen. And Stephen's wondering if we are taking a language placement exam about whatever particular language, say Spanish, in addition to placement, does that exam score count towards any arts and humanity credits?
Good question. Before I answer that question, Stephen, I want to just mention, going off what Aaron said before, there is a page in the registration guide that it kind of gives a template for a first semester student who's exploring academic interests, so somebody who doesn't have a major in mind, there is actually a page in the guide dedicated to you and to helping you kind of figure out what courses you might want to take. But getting to Stephen's question about the placement exams for language, so those do not award credit. Those are simply to tell you where you should begin your study of a language, just like the math diagnostic. So the math diagnostic doesn't give credit either. Math diagnostic, foreign language placement, what they tell you is where to begin, and then once you begin taking those courses, then you start to earn credit towards your degree. So, yeah.
Okay, I have a question that's come in from Caesar. And his question is, are the schedule recommendations in the FYR guide, thinking about the engineering majors now, designed for a student to complete the major in 4 years? Or if not, how many years?
So each of our majors can be completed in 4 years, 8 semesters. And actually, so if you're looking at engineering, your 8 semesters may expand more than 4 years if you do like a co-op work experience, an internship. But the majors are designed to be completed within the 8 semesters that we expect you to be here at Case Western Reserve University. The 14 to 17 credit hours in the first semester really sets you up nicely to kind of work towards that. Now, you might have semesters later on that you take 19 credit hours. You might have semesters later on that you take 14 credit hours. And each of those semester choices that you have, you'll work directly with an advisor. Once you declare a major, you'll have a major advisor, and that person will help you stay on track towards graduation. And in addition to that, you'll be assigned to another staff member in our office, the Office of Undergraduate Studies, and an upper class dean who also help you make sure that you can do that if that's your goal.
Yeah, and I also want to say too, I know we've made we talked a lot about credit, students coming in with AP credit, IB credit, et cetera. It's definitely not the expectation though. So the schedule recommendations are basically designed starting in the fall semester of your first year for someone who comes in with no credit. And even a student who comes in with absolutely no credit, who's starting from scratch in the fall semester, if you follow the plans that are laid out for you in the registration guide and also in the general bulletin, then you will be able to complete that degree within 8 semesters. So yeah, I just want to make sure you knew that, even though we talk a lot about credit, it's not like we expect everybody to have it, or if you don't have some kind of credit coming in that you're somehow behind or disadvantaged in any way, because you're definitely not.
All right, thank you. I have another question here. What if you don't get into a class that you need for your major?
Okay, so if there's a class that you need for your major that's recommended for your first semester, we really do try to work hard to get you into that class if possible. There is a process for you to try to enroll in a closed course, and I think we'll review that a little more in depth in our next webinar. But there is a form that's available for you to complete. It's on the checklist, correct? Mm-hmm. It's on the checklist. So if you go onto the checklist, you'll be able to find the kind of request for closed course form to be able to fill out and send to us at summerreghelp@case.edu for us to process. Also, if you're working through your registration and there's a course that you think you need in your first semester for your major, you can also email us and we can help you navigate that process.
We do a lot of sort of projections on the front end to make sure that we'll have enough spots available in the courses that we expect first year students will need based on their intended majors. And like Aaron said, we do everything in our power to make sure everybody gets the courses they need for their intended major in the first semester. And as of yet, I haven't come across a situation where we haven't been able to do that. So I fully expect we'll continue on that path.
Oh, great. Okay, so we have two more questions for you, I think, this evening. The first one is about physical education, and I'm going to give you a twofer in this one question. So Grace would like to know if there are 2 semesters of physical education are required, and some of them are only half semester courses, do you have to take 4 of those? And what types of physical education classes are out there?
Wow. So starting with the last question, there are a lot of different types of physical education courses out there. There's a whole section in the first year registration guide that outlines what courses are available and what counts towards the physical education requirement. There are courses like a wellness course or courses like weightlifting, cycling, running, plenty others, swimming, yoga, a lot of different courses that can really meet some of your needs too if you're looking for a variety of different physical education options. Additionally, if you are a varsity athlete, you can register for your sport during the semester that you'll be primarily being participating in your sport, and that counts towards the physical education requirements as well.
And then the equivalency is, either 2 full semester experiences or 4 half semester or any combination of that. But essentially, you just you get the equivalent of 2. So it could be a full semester and then 2 halves, or however you want to sort of mix and match those.
All right, thanks. We'll make this our last question for the evening, and the questions come in from Brady. And Brady would like to know, can my AP Language and Composition credit be used to fulfill any of the general education requirements for nursing?
Yes. So if you look at the general education requirements in the first year registration guide for the nursing program, you'll notice that there are humanities requirements, and English courses count towards the humanities requirement. However, you also want to look at the requirements for the AP English courses, because in order to earn the credit for the AP English course, you also need to complete a 300 level English course with a C or better before you can be awarded that AP credit for that English course. So this is actually a good question, because maybe it kind of gives an example sort of the more, I don't want to say extreme, but I just used that word. So it's one of the more sort of, there's more steps to it than maybe in most cases. But so in general, this happened to be an English sort of example. But in general, when you have AP credit or IB credit, or even credit from a course that you took in college, or a college course you took while you're in high school, whatever that credit equivalency is here for Case Western Reserve, if you're wondering whether or not that fulfills a gen ed requirement, you just need to look at what the gen ed requirements are for the school or the college that you're pursuing your major in, and see how that maps on. But in this example, yes, the English credit, since English is a requirement for arts and humanities, that AP English credit would satisfy that humanities requirement. But again, you need to take an upper level English course to earn that credit. That's not necessarily the case with many of the other AP scores or AP requirements. But again, you just look through that list and see if there are any stipulations, like in the example of English or in political science, for example.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Dean Mason and Mr. Baker, for answering all of our questions. And thank you to all of our viewers who tuned in this evening. And don't forget, the video live stream will be posted for you up on the new student checklist for you to review. And finally, we have quite a few questions we weren't able to get to tonight. And if you have a question you haven't asked yet, please email us at summerreghelp@case.edu, and we'll be sure to get back to you by email. So once again, thanks so much for tuning in, and have a good evening.